Kenosha, Wisconsin, is a model city for having an historic electric street railway as a viable clean air alternative to the bus and automobile. Kenosha Transit Electric Streetcar combines the commuter and tourism markets through the operation of historic trolley cars. Tasteful and elegant, this electric street railway serves as a model for other cities, such as Colorado Springs, Colorado. The success of a street railway is its ability to serve a high-density metropolitan area from a centralized location. Where large numbers of people converge on a particular place for business or recreation is how an alternative mode of transportation to the automobile becomes viable. Through park and ride access and mixed-use city planning, the City of Kenosha made the operation of historic electric trolleys part of its downtown transportation infrastructure. The City of Kenosha, with over 80,000 residents, is located just north of the Illinois border in Wisconsin. The former home of American Motors and later Chrysler, this automobile manufacturing community is located right on the shore of Lake Michigan. Chrysler closed the majority of its automobile assembly plants in the Kenosha area in 1988. Demolition of the lakefront plant took place shortly thereafter. To recover from the loss of a major industry, the city began a process which led to the 1991 Kenosha Downtown Plan. The new Harbor Park area, between downtown and the lakefront, was to employ the mixed-use development approach. Houses, parks, a marina, and some commercial development were to be built within just a trolley ride of one another. Following years of study and planning, the construction of Harbor Park began in 1997. Similar to Kenosha and other American cities, the City of Colorado Springs has its own redevelopment plan for its downtown area. The Downtown Action Plan for downtown Colorado Springs includes such places as Confluence Park and the Lowell School area. An opportunity to build an historic electric streetcar line exists through the Pikes Peak Historical Street Railway Foundation. This nonprofit organization envisions a circulator trolley service similar to the one in Kenosha. A circulator streetcar line makes frequent stops within a high-density activity center. The average speed, including stops, is about 8 miles per hour, moving through the normal flow of automobile traffic. In places where parking is difficult and traffic is potentially slow, a streetcar line's frequent service and convenient stops can serve as an alternative to traffic congestion. Gridlock occurs when automobile traffic from several low-density suburbs converges on one or a few high-density areas, such as business districts, shopping malls, or sports arenas, to name a few. It is at this point that a viable mass transit system becomes more advantageous than driving. Arguably, a street railway could provide a service equal to any well-operated bus transit system, although environmentally friendly electric streetcars give off no emissions. In many cities, streetcars played a significant role in shaping the very communities that subsequently abandoned them. An historic electric streetcar line would serve as a rolling museum, providing an accurate representation of street railway and community history. Therefore, many cities might prefer an historic electric railway to a regular bus transit system. The way people used mass transportation changed gradually after the First World War. The affordable automobile was gaining in popularity, although rail mass transit was still widely used. The automobile was one of four major factors which eventually crippled the street railway and interurban industries. Economic hard times followed the stock market crash of October 1929. The Great Depression forced many Americans out of work, which greatly affected rail mass transit lines. After World War II, a significant increase in government-subsidized road building took place. Americans were buying more cars and moving to the suburbs. This move out of the inner cities only further reduced the viability of rail mass transit. Tracks went to places where people no longer wanted to live or work. To survive the Depression and compete with the automobile, the presidents of various electric street railways throughout the United States came together to find a solution. The President's Conference Committee was formed in 1929 to study, design, and test a modern electric streetcar. The prototype was to be fast, safe, quiet, roomy, and economical. The PCC car, named for the committee which created it, would become the standard electric trolley throughout the street railway industry. The first fleet of PCC electric streetcars went into production in 1935. New York City's Brooklyn and Queens transit lines was the first electric railway to receive and operate PCC trolleys. Similar cars operated in Baltimore, Maryland by the Baltimore Transit Company until 1963. Early PCC streetcars had air-controlled brakes, doors, and windshield wipers. Their design features included small front bumpers, slightly recessed windshields, and no standee windows. The St. Louis Car Company and Pullman were the primary builders. The St. Louis Public Service Company in St. Louis, Missouri, operated original design, air-controlled PCC cars and newer all-electric trolleys. After World War II, a new design of PCC streetcar came to the forefront. These all-electric cars had electric brakes, doors, windshield wipers, and a new addition, air conditioning. Their design features included wraparound front bumpers, recessed windshields, and standee windows. Other unique features varied from one street railway to another. Cleveland, Ohio's Shaker Heights Rapid Transit, for example, operated some PCC cars with an extra center door on what was typically the non-revenue side of the car. These wider-than-usual PCC trolleys ran like interurban cars, on a dedicated right-of-way, rather than entirely on city streets. The The most obvious design modification for PCC trolleys were those cars which were double-ended. The Illinois Terminal Railroad in St. Louis operated PCC cars with dual controls. The primary advantage of having bidirectional trolley cars was that they could operate back and forth between 2 points without having to be turned at either end of the line. Despite various design modifications, a PCC streetcar typically collected electricity through a trolley pole which ran along overhead wire. There was an exception, the street-running PCC trolleys in Washington, D.C. Within the downtown area, D.C. Transit operated PCC cars which collected electricity from a slot in the street between the rails. Only out in suburban territory were trolley poles connected to traditional overhead wire. The President's Conference Committee electric streetcar extended the vitality of many street railway lines before most were eventually abandoned. Newark City Subway PCC cars in Newark, New Jersey, operated until the year 2001. They were replaced with modern light rail vehicles. In cities such as Kenosha, Wisconsin, the PCC trolley has not lived out its usefulness. In 1999, tracks were laid for a new 2-mile trolley line, which was to connect downtown Kenosha to the Harbor Park development area. A first-class trolley barn and maintenance facility was built, which would also serve as a bus transfer point. Trolley tracks also went by the commuter rail station, so that trolley riders could transfer to a Metra commuter train to get to downtown Chicago. State and federal grants covered the cost to build the streetcar system. The City of Kenosha was given nearly $3.5 million for the construction of the trolley line, the transit center, and the purchase of 5 electric streetcars. The actual cost was less, about $3.27 million. Part of what made Kenosha eligible for these grants was that it was located in an air quality non-attainment area. In an effort to significantly reduce air pollution levels, electric trolleys were chosen instead of combustion engine city buses. The 5 46-seat, wheelchair-accessible PCC electric streetcars were purchased from Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. Restoration of the 1951-built PCC trolleys was done by a contractor in Iowa. The Kenosha Transit electric streetcar system received its first restored streetcar in May 2000. Only one PCC car retained its maroon Toronto color scheme. The other trolleys were painted for transit companies which operated PCC cars in other cities in the United States. Paint schemes representing Chicago, Illinois, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Boston, Massachusetts were chosen. The last trolley to arrive on the property was painted for Kenosha. Maintenance and repair costs of the city-owned PCC trolleys were expected to be the same or less than city buses. They were to last 15 to 20 years before needing to be rebuilt. Specially trained city bus drivers were to operate the trolleys. The big opening day celebration took place on Saturday, June 17, 2000. Regular operation of the street railway began the following Monday. Patrons paid Kenosha Transit's regular bus fare of 25 cents each to ride to any point along the 2-mile loop. One of the most beautified and upgraded downtown streets along the trolley route was 56th Street. The street was widened and a grassy median put in, with the tracks laid down the middle. This was patterned after the design of the St. Charles Line electric railway in New Orleans, Louisiana. Once to Harbor Park, the trolley line passed Celebration Place and the Harbor Walk along Lake Michigan and Kenosha Harbor. From there, the trolley line followed 54th Street, westbound along Kenosha Harbor, before arriving back at the Transit Center. The one-way trolley loop operated in counterclockwise fashion. The City of Kenosha expects Harbor Park to generate $60 to $75 million in private investment. Over 700 new residents are expected to move into the new Harborview residential neighborhood. Patrons can expect a trolley car to come by about every 15 minutes.
This is a PCC car. It was designed in the early 1930s. Some of these were built starting in 1936. They were not built, of course, during World War II. There were about 5,000 built after World War II. Doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too tired for 1.5 miles in 50 years. Howard Noble, standing next to me, has been really key in arranging for the cars to be shipped from Philadelphia. This car was completely overhauled in the late 1980s, rewired. Some of the stainless steel on the inside was added at that time and put back in service for 3 years and then taken out of service. So this car has just sort of been broken in since its overhaul. And all of the 9 PCC cars have all been overhauled, rewired, are in good operating condition.
The Pikes Peak Historical Street Railway Foundation also envisions operating PCC electric trolleys as its primary design of streetcar for use in downtown Colorado Springs. Durability and reasonable operating and maintenance costs make the PCC a practical choice. PCC streetcars would join other heritage trolleys in regular service. The first delivery of PCC cars in 1936 just missed the end of Pikes Peak area streetcar operations in 1932. The widespread use of PCC trolleys nationally made them historically significant, which justifies their use on the new Colorado Springs and Interurban Railway. PCC streetcars were purchased from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1995. These 54-seat cars were built by the St. Louis Car Company for the Philadelphia Transportation Company in 1947. They were completely rebuilt during the mid-1980s. More significantly, the representation of local history inspired the Pikes Peak Historical Street Railway Foundation to restore trolley cars like those which originally operated in Colorado Springs. These included a 1901 Laclede car, which operated between Colorado Springs and nearby Manitou Springs, and a Bernie car built in 1919. The single-truck Bernie was the last design of electric streetcar to operate in the Pikes Peak region. It is expected to operate on the South Rail Loop, to be known as the Lowell Line. Although the Bernie car is to operate in regular service, other vintage fleet trolleys are intended for use in less demanding service. Newer Philadelphia PCC cars are expected to handle heavier demands in ridership and route miles.
It's a Fort Collins Bernie car. There were 35 identical to this one that operated in Colorado Springs, so it's a very appropriate car for us to have on the system. It was complete when we brought it down. We have been carefully disassembling it, very carefully documenting everything that we have there so that we can put it back together and it'll run.
It was pretty much intact, 98%, and so we've stripped it down, and what's corroded we've replaced, but where we can, we're going to reuse components. Again, everything is DC current, 600 volt. That's the standard at the turn of the century, and we still use it for trolleys today. So it's a good, proven system. That's a beautiful piece of mechanical engineering in there. And again, about 80 years old, but it's all fully functional and ready to go.
It's a fair amount of work on some of these seat bottoms because originally they had nailed some sort of an oilcloth or something over them, and so some of them we were able to get by with just filling the holes around here where they put the oilcloth in. Some of the others we had to actually replace pieces or route out pieces and put in new wood. And this is one where it looks like we used all original slats. On a number of them we remade some of the slats also. So we now have 14 complete seat bottoms and 14 complete seat tops. With the seats, the car is roughly symmetrical around its center line, fore and aft, so that it was a lot easier rather than trying to turn the car around to just switch and go from one end of there are controllers at both ends, so you can drive the car from either end, and you can switch the seats so that the seats face forward no matter which way the car is going. It's kind of an interesting woodworking project because there aren't any square corners in this end at all. Everything is cut to a radius to match the radius of the car. And a lot of things are, again, because it's 1920s technology, a lot of things are done in wood that would be done in metal today. For example, these tapered channels, the windows run in tapered channels here, and the way the window goes up is there are no counterweights, but the window goes up and then comes forward and rests in the windowsill like that.
It shows years and years and years of use. They got more than their money's worth out of the car. And everything we found as we tore it apart is well worn.
We moved our car 59 from Ghost Town, where it was wrapped in canvas, to where we could open it up and look at it. And that car has been designated as a Colorado Historic Property, so it's sort of like being on the National Register, but it's on the State Register, which makes it, that's quite an honor for us to get our piece of equipment on that register.
The PCC cars from Philadelphia were purchased from SEPTA, the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority. The Pennsylvania State Legislature created SEPTA in 1963. One of its charges was to take over street railway operations from the Philadelphia Transportation Company, which it did on September 30th, 1968. The replacement of older PCC streetcars and other trolleys began with the purchase of 112 light rail vehicles in 1979. Philadelphia's continually operated street railway system utilized the largest fleet of electric trolleys in the United States. The new Colorado Springs and interurban historic electric streetcar line will operate year-round, daily, for 12 hours a day or more. During rush hour travel peaks, streetcars will run 10 minutes apart, 20 minutes apart during off-peak hours. Time between trolley cars will be based on demand, with extra cars used as needed. The Colorado Springs and Interurban Railway will be operated as a full-service transit provider, as well as an attraction for tourists. Rail operations will be coordinated with the Springs Transit bus system. As the City of Colorado Springs studied and planned for the revitalization of its downtown area, developers could look to cities like Kenosha to see how to do it. One way it was being done was with historic electric streetcars as the means for mass transportation. Cleaner and quieter historic trolley cars added flavor to newly redeveloped neighborhoods and business districts without significantly contributing to noise and air pollution. If Kenosha can do it, so can Colorado Springs.